happens in that circumstance? And the answer is a little bit different. During the handoff between you and your friend, that is a change in frame of reference, which actually changes your perspective on what events are happening simultaneously at the same moment. And if you take that into account, there's a jump in time between what you said was happening at the same moment, and what your friend says is happening at the same moment. And that also comes to the exact same conclusion. If you want to see this done fully and visually, obviously there's just so much I can do in explaining things on the fly right here, but I have a whole course on the special theory of relativity. There's a math version of it, there's a visual version of it. You can look at these courses, take these courses for free at worldscienceu.com. That website is being relaunched, refreshed. I think it's still available right now, but if it's not, within a week or two, it will be available. And toward the end of that course, there are like 44 modules, a lot of content in there. But I show you visually what it would look like in sort of any scenario of the twin paradox that would come to mind. And so the short answer is, I will be the one who is older if I didn't accelerate. The long answer is, go check out all the details on World Science U. I think you would enjoy doing that. And that goes for any of you who want to see special relativity done in a highly visual as well as mathematical way. Okay, what do we have here? Hello, sir. Asit Dash says, you are my inspiration. Thank you. How in string theory is it that vibrations give rise to new kinds of particles? And yeah, that is the basic idea in string theory. And let me just explain the essence of it. So in string theory, we imagine, at least in the most vanilla bread and butter approach to string theory, people have gone in many different directions with these ideas. Let me just give you the dominant way that people have thought about things for a long time. If you were to take an elementary particle, like an electron or a quark, and somehow were able to magnify it to an extent that you could see its most deep inner structure, you find that each of those particles is composed of a vibrating filament, a one-dimensional vibrating
undisputed
filament. And you might say, how could particles as different as an electron and a quark, they've got different electric charges, they respond to the strong nuclear force in different ways. How is it that a string can distinguish them? And here's the idea, and I'll focus on mass, as that's the easiest example, easiest quality for me to talk about. The mass of a particle in string theory comes from its energy, right? Einstein taught us E equals mc squared, the most famous of all equations, the equation I started with a month ago in this series of Your Daily Equation. Let's turn that equation around, actually turn it around in the way that Einstein himself wrote it in his September 1905 paper. He didn't write E equals mc squared. In fact, he used different symbols, but put that to the side. Instead, he wrote m equals E over c squared. M equals E over c squared. So mass comes from energy divided by c squared. So if you want to know the mass of a particle that emerges from a vibrating string, you find the energy of the vibrating string, divide it by c squared. So how do you get two particles of different masses? You get two particles of different masses by having two strings vibrating with different energies. One is vibrating slowly, if I can use ordinary language. One is vibrating more vigorously, faster, greater energy, greater mass. So that's the way that a one and the same ingredient, the same vibrating filament, it's not like you've got different filaments, they're the same species of filament, but if they vibrate in different ways, you get different masses. Now, to describe different electric charges is a little bit more subtle. That would take me pretty far afield, but it's qualitatively no different from that. It's just there are more exotic qualities of a vibrating string that correspond to charge. And if it's vibrating in one manner, in those qualities, it'll yield one charge. Vibrating differently will yield a different charge. Okay, what do we have here? Ali Unisayan asks, how should we study to be a good physicist? Please specify. Finding is very important. Sure. Look, the most important thing, if you're asking me, when you're in the learning phase of physics, is that you don't get distracted by things that are happening at the frontier of research and think that you can jump right to the edge of understanding without slogging through all of the basic foundational material. I can't tell you the number of students that come to me and they just say, hey, I'm ready. I just want to work on string theory, or I want to work on black holes, or I want to work on the Big Bang. I mean, it's exciting for me to hear the interest in working on those subjects. But the fact of the matter is, if you don't understand classical mechanics and quantum mechanics and differential equations and thermodynamics and statistical mechanics and special relativity and general relativity and quantum field theory, and on it goes, the traditional undergraduate and graduate curriculum, if you don't have that solidly under your belt, it's going to be very hard for you to contribute. So although it may feel that that material's old and you don't really need to know that material, the fact of the matter is physics is a very hierarchical, vertical subject. The things that we work on today rest upon the things that we learned yesterday. And by yesterday, I mean everything from truly yesterday back to a few centuries ago. So the answer is you just need to work day and night to learn the basic material. And it's not just a matter of learning it, it's a matter of doing problems and problems. You need to gain a facility with putting the material into action. So it's a lot of hard work, but the payoff is significant. Number one, you understand the material so much better when you work through it. Every equation you understand, every problem in the book you can solve, but it then prepares you for bringing all that knowledge to bear on cutting-edge research, and that's really the way to get there. There's no shortcut, unfortunately. Goran Kohler asks, how do you balance life and work? Well, you should ask my wife and kids. Not well all the time. Sometimes I do it better than others, but I kind of work all the time. I kind of work 7 days a week. I don't come to Saturday and Sunday and say, oops, it's over. I don't have to think about things until Monday. And you know, my family has come to accept that. Perhaps the reason is my wife and I both are the folks who started this World Science Festival, which is the rubric under which this, your daily equation, and many other things sits. So because we work together on this, it doesn't always feel as though I am leaving the family conversation if I'm working on things, at least in this regard. My kids get a little bit tired of the fact that my wife and I both work a lot all the time. So yes, the balance is not always there. But I certainly have found the ability more now than, say, 20 years ago to pull away from either doing a physics research project or writing a book or doing this kind of an activity to spend more time with kids. And I have to tell you, it's the most important, the most vital thing to do. And this pandemic only brings that home even further. In the end, what really matters are the people you spend time with and the people that you affect and the relationships that you have. Because in the end, everything just evaporates into the void. It doesn't mean it's not important to strive. It's not important to understand the universe. I'm driven to do that. But in the end, what really matters are the relationships. And it's hard to keep that in mind, but it's vital to do so. All right, what do we have here? Cosmic Slice. I'm going to miss the World Science Festival this year. I love volunteering at it. Yes, I agree. You know, we're going to do a kind of World Science Festival this year. We're not going to do it like all at once in a 5-day period as we do when it's a live event. We will roll out a series of programs over the coming months. Some of those programs will take place right in this space right here. Others, we have other ideas up our sleeves for what they will look like. But from that perspective, unfortunately, volunteering is not something that's relevant with the way the world is at the moment. But the programs themselves, they will be coming, so at least that side of it. Professor Green, yes, Roz asks, what to do when your school interferes in your education? That is an encapsulation of a quote of the man himself, Albert Einstein. And I appreciate that reference. Einstein said the only thing that interferes in his learning was his education. But Einstein was Einstein. Einstein was the kind of guy who could go off and read the greats of physics. Read Maxwell's original works, read Kirchhoff, read Lorentz, read Planck, and not only digest what they were talking about, but be able to take their ideas to the next level. Unfortunately, most of us are not Einstein. Would I love to be at the level of an Einstein? Yeah, I really would. How exciting to be able to revolutionize our understanding of things. But you come to terms with the limited capacities that you have in any domain. And for most of us, that limited capacity means we do have to be educated. Most of us cannot just do the Einstein thing or do the Ramanujan thing where we can just learn on our own. That would be great if we could, and if it works for you, fantastic. But for most of us, the education process doesn't interfere with the learning. It's part of the learning. I hope you guys are not distracted by my dog, who seems to be barking outside the window. That probably is because my dog Luna has a different perspective on learning and education and understanding, wants to chime in. But, Luna, you want to say something, get your own damn show. This is my show, okay? So I'm just going to say my view on learning and education. No, Luna, if you have anything you want to say, feel free to chime in again, and I'll try to interpret for the audience. Okay, so Mohammed Zuneho asks, Dr. Bryan, in thermodynamics, we have something called a closed system in which only energy can be exchanged, not matter. Isn't it against mass energy equivalence? Well, the usual way that we do thermodynamics, and I hope I'm interpreting your question correctly. If not, feel free to ask it again if I misinterpreted it. In thermodynamics, there are two ways in which we formulate the theory. When we apply the equations to a closed